Hello everyone, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good morning. Uh, First of all, I would like to thanks to Chairperson who gives me a time for presenting my research finding. And this paper basically was an outcome of our research project funded by International Research Grant Binus University. And today presentation I will be talking about China investment and green technology in Southeast Asia. As you know that the development has been associated with the environmental destructions. And today we look at what kind of successful project as well as failure project of the development, especially in China as well as in Southeast Asia. And therefore, my presentation today will be limited into 3 points. First is the Chinese investment, especially on infrastructure in Southeast Asia. The second will be on successful Chinese green technology in infrastructure, especially in a specific project like in Shenzhen as well as Tianjin Eco-City as a collaboration between China and Singapore. And the rest, we look at the failure of the sustainable development in infrastructure development in Southeast Asia. As we know that green infrastructure has been long established concept to tackle the climate change since 80s. However, the realization of green infrastructure has been only taking place around the 21st century. Currently, if you look at China as one of the biggest producer of sustainable energy, has started their project on Belt and Road Initiative. And in Southeast Asia, BIR project have become one initiative for ASEAN countries to develop their national infrastructure to accelerate gross domestic product or GDP. And as such, what we can see right now is to identify some successful project where there is an infrastructure based on the green technology, as well as the BRI, which lead to the environmental destructions. This paper is based on qualitative method. It used primary and secondary data. In analyzing this data, the researcher applied thematic analysis. By utilizing this thematic analysis, the researcher will be able to gain insight and knowledge on Chinese investment through BRI and its green infrastructure, especially collaboration between China and Southeast Asia. And what we found basically, as we know that green infrastructure has become a trend over the last 6 years since the adoption of the UN Sustainable Development Goal, or SDGs, in 2015. In rapidly growing urbanizations, natural ecosystem is displaced by the new use of land development. And as such, green infrastructure has become resolutions for the urban housing. An example about this green infrastructure is, of course, Shenzhen low carbon city in China. And as one of the biggest carbon donor countries, China has started adopting the new approach by using concept of low carbon city to overcome the emissions they produce. However, ASEAN countries have tried to adopt this trend. However, the progress of sustainable cities and infrastructure is still in a slow progress, if not fail, due to many challenges for ASEAN countries to face. The report, for example, from ASEAN Center for Energy mentions almost 21 challenges that all ASEAN member countries to face in order to achieve agreeable building codes for green building codes. And this is, of course, the picture of or the map of the Southeast ASEAN countries, especially under ASEAN. ASEAN has 10 members, as we know. First is Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Thailand, Singapore, of course, Brunei later will come in, and then Vietnam, and Myanmar, Laos, and finally Cambodia. So this is a very strategic locations where it's connected to all of regions, and it is connected by oceans. However, if we look at the infrastructure in Southeast Asia, especially Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Thailand, and Cambodia, in order to build the green infrastructure has been failure. One of the most, on the biggest concern is the lack of awareness of civilian and uncaring attitude in public space. Means it's lack of civic awareness. And this would be resulting unsuccessful use of green architecture in their countries. As we know, that the underdevelopment green infrastructure in Southeast Asia is a concern for global communities due to rapid urbanization and vast development of industrial environment in many ASEAN countries. So as such, China, which has initiated the Belt and Road Initiative, was suggested by UNEP, United Nations Environmental Program, to include this BRI with the Green Development Coalitions. What we call is BRIGC. The main goal of this BRIGC is to promote international consensus understanding, cooperation, and concerted action to achieve green development of BRI, to integrate the sustainable development into BRI through joint efforts, and to facilitate the IR participating countries to implement strong integrations of the environment and development elements of the SDGs, or Sustainable Development Goals. With the development of Belt and Road Initiative Green Development Coalitions, China's BRI's project in Southeast Asia will be able to develop green infrastructure more efficient, while still preserving its main goal to develop developing nations in accordance with the BRIGC guidelines. However, in many countries of the ASEAN member state, these are still far behind. As a result, we can learn the case in Indonesia, for example, in the case of Jakarta-Bandung rapid train, as well as in the new city that has been established based on the green infrastructure in Philippines. But however, you said that what I mentioned in Southeast Asia, there is successful stories which has resulted in a very good green infrastructure city, which is the collaboration between China and Singapore in Tianjin Eco City. As we know that this Eco City has been a result of a collaboration, government to government level, Singapore and China, which has committed, of course, to sharing expertise and experience in various areas such as urban planning, environmental protections, resource conservations, water and waste management, and sustainable development. And as a result, if you look at, you can observe from the website of Tianjin Eco City, Eco City in Tianjin has protected the environment successfully. In the sense that Eco Initiative in the Eco City include rehabilitating 2.6 kilometers wastewater pond, conducting research in green development, developing green building standard, and constructing green building, tapping renewable energy sources, and others. In terms of social development, this Tianjin ecosystem has adopted an eco-cell concept similar to the Singapore Township planning to ensure provisions of public social amenities. Within walking distance of residential estates, there are currently 3 community centers, drawing reference from Singapore Integrated Communities Club. So they were very much successful. In terms of economic development, within this Tianjin ecosystem, there is growth of the company registered in EcoCity from 2,200 companies registered in 2014. Now it's becoming 7,000 registered companies in September 2018, with total capital almost 270 billions RMB. So therefore, this Tianjin ecosystem was a successful story of the green infrastructure in China. But there are failure of green technology in Southeast Asia. Like I said earlier, in the project of the Jakarta-Bandung rapid train, which until now is not yet completed, but in the way of constructing this train rail, there was the implications for the environmental sustainability. Like, for example, when the train rail was established, there were many incidents happen, like flooding, erosions, and landslides, which of course destroy the communities. One of those example, for example, is BRI project in the Philippines. There are renewable energy construction and smart cities, mostly in Philippines. We call this New Clark City. New Clark City is one of this project that has been successfully constructed to preserve green infrastructure. But however, as the city has newly finished constructed, the environmental degradation has been identified as the impact of the construction of New Clark City. What are the implications? The first, we found out around the New Clark City, there is a forest degradations that certainly will be occurred. And of course, it is from human-induced activities, most likely will be resulting reduced quality of habitat, species population, and net primary productivity. The second damage is also habitat loss and fragmentations, simultaneously with the forest degradations of species and vegetation. And the third, greenhouse has emissions. Despite the main purpose of the city is to reduce carbon emissions, operations of heavy machinery and vegetation's decay from construction is emitting a large carbon productions. And finally, from this New Clark City, the pollution to local area in which the waste of construction in the form of solid or water is affecting the biodiversity around the area. And a conclusion, yet in Southeast Asia, development of green infrastructure is still in null progress. This became a concern of many countries in Southeast Asia, considering population growth is in high chart. As such, China as leading country that has influence over ASEAN countries' infrastructure development to BRI has obligation to overcome this issue. UNEP, the United Nations Environmental Program, comes with the solution for this by proposing a greener way of BRI called BIRGC, or Belt and Road Initiative Green Development Coalition, to develop all nations in region through BIR project while also resolving climate and environmental problem. So as such, there must be mutual collaborations between China as the host of BRI or the home ground of BRI and the ASEAN countries, which also collaborating in developing the infrastructure, which being expected to be more environmental friendly, more green, so that we have development at the same time we have sustainable environmental management. And with that, I think we can allow the questions if there is any, and also the criticism if there is. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.